My name is Veronica and my company is called Sacred Offerings. And today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about our Sacred Heart. Our Sacred Heart is the energy center between the heart chakra and the throat chakra. Some people identify it as a turquoise color and others may identify it as a crystalline color. The actual color or the location aren't specifically important, however the energy that we are tapping into is. I will go through briefly all of the chakras, just FYI in case you haven't learned this before. We're going to start at the root chakra, which is our first chakra. Some identify that as a red color at the base of our spine, or perhaps it's at the perineum. The second chakra often is associated with the color orange, and it can be found maybe a couple of inches below the navel or in the reproductive area. The third chakra is often identified with the color yellow and is so-called in our solar plexus. And when I say so-called, it's not because you will actually find it there. These are energy centers that run down the column, run down the center of our being, let's say. Our heart chakra is in the center of our chest and is associated with green. Our throat chakra, the fifth chakra, is our throat chakra and is associated with blue. And then our third eye, which is, between the eyebrows slightly upward, is identified with either indigo or sometimes with violet. And that is our sixth chakra. The seventh chakra is our crown chakra, and many times people will, see it right on top of our head, slightly up above our head. And it is associated with the color violet, or some people will see it as a white. The Sacred Heart is not important because of where it's located necessarily in our column of chakras, or even for making it more complicated by adding more chakras, so to speak. One of the things you might be experiencing is that we are slowly but surely losing our minds. You may be noticing this in terms of your everyday interactions in the world. Perhaps you're sending emails on a regular basis and suddenly you can no longer remember how to spell things. Trying to write isn't working for you anymore. Your thought forms are not necessarily following patterns the way they used to be. In other words, maybe you have a thought and all of a sudden it's completely gone. You can't remember people's names. You can't remember appointments. The other thing that you might be experiencing is just this sense of time not quite being what it used to be. And are we losing our minds? We could be. And is it a little bit frightening? Absolutely. It can be a little bit disconcerting when you really know things and you really have a sense of what is, and suddenly that what is that you knew is gone and you cannot access it at all. As we move from a center that is oriented around the mind, of the knowing, of the doing sort of place in the world, into a more balanced place in the world, we will find comfort in our Sacred Heart. I will offer you this, that in the morning, before you start anything else out in the day, before you go rushing off to work or try to remember those appointments that you're suddenly forgetting, to just check in with your Sacred Heart. You don't have to focus too hard. You don't have to go through any kind of big ritual. You can simply bring your awareness to this heart center. By breathing into this energy center, by bringing your awareness into it, you get to tap into a source greater than what you could imagine with any of the other chakras. In the Sacred Heart lies a porthole, so to speak, a space that goes into the possibilities, into the oneness, into the all that is. The beauty of the Sacred Heart is that it keeps us more in tune with our higher self, with our knowing, with what is, and it also aligns us with source energy. We can bring this energy through our being simply by tapping into the Sacred Heart and not feel like we're constantly giving, and not feeling replenished. So this is how we can be replenished. We can also offer our oneness to others out in the world through our Sacred Heart. Many times we get caught up in our personal heart. Our personal heart can feel sympathy and compassion and all of these noble things for others. However, it is prone to being hurt by others. And not to say that we can't take responsibility, but the difference between the Sacred Heart is that herein lies the beauty of unconditional love. Not necessarily personal love with attachments or thoughts or desires that can get tripped up in our lives. As we shift our consciousness into these higher states, we are beginning to find that our mind may no longer meet the needs of who we are becoming. And thus we are starting to lose that ability. As our minds expand into the grandness, maybe we are learning to use the 95% of our minds that we are not used to using, or that they say we don't use. We are creating more space, so that as you try to travel from one thought form to another, you may fall into the abyss of the nothingness that you are expanding into. However, it's not so comfortable being in that. So when you start your day, or when you come across these points in your day-to-day activities that you suddenly get lost in that nothingness and the forgetfulness of the mind, of trying to grasp and know, by tapping into your Sacred Heart, you can find love, peace, bliss, comfort, a way to bring in energy, knowledge, and possibly any dimension that you might want to visit, know about, etc. This is where the all that is can be accessed. This is where your eternal truth can be accessed. This is the essence of who you are. So through this Sacred Heart, we are finding more peace in our lives, more connectedness in our lives, and by tapping into that and offering it to others, more connection with others. We can start to live the oneness that we are trying to become. So with that, I'd like to offer you just the gentleness and sweetness of being in that Sacred Heart space. And by offering you a couple of tools, perhaps, to carry you through the day, the next few months, the next couple of years, as we unfold to the grandness that we are becoming, I wish you well, and thank you.